Hey guys, welcome back to Kid Church.
I'm Miss Bree.
And I'm Mr. Josh, and we're really excited to be with you today. As you all know, we're getting ready. We're planning our little event with DCC and ECC. We're really excited to get that going. We have a good number of signups already, so we're really excited to spend that time with you. And parents, if you haven't signed up yet and you want to, feel free to email us or contact us through text or give us a call. So today we're going to continue talking about Joseph. I know last time we ended the story by Joseph being sold by his brothers, and his father was devastated. And we talked about a little bit about knowing that God still loves us, even in the midst of, hard times, just being sure and being confident that even if we go through those times, God still loves us. He still has the best intentions for us. So we're going to go ahead and continue with the story here. And so, like we said, Joe had been taken by some slave traders from his home in Canaan, and he was sold into Egypt. Now he was owned by the Egyptian officer named Potiphar, which was one of Pharaoh's helpers. And Joseph became a slave. Joseph didn't speak any Egyptian. He didn't know anybody. And he was completely and totally alone. A young man who had been treated like a prince by his father up until now, his brothers threw him in a pit and sold him off.
All right, so we're going to jump into Genesis 39, starting in verse 2. It says, "The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered and lived in the house of the Egyptian master. When his master saw the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in the eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of the household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned."
Wow, that must have been a lot of stuff if he was a very important guy.
Yeah.
So Joseph did an amazing job over time with Potiphar, and he put him in charge of, like Ms. Bree was saying, of just everything he really owned. There was only one thing that Joseph was not in charge of, and this was Potiphar's wife. So again, Potiphar trusted Joseph with everything, and Joseph did take care of everything. But the one thing, he was not to, deal with at all was Potiphar's wife. Mrs. Potiphar had actually a little crush on Joseph, or maybe a big crush, who knows. But she had a crush on Joseph, and she wanted to be with Joseph. She thought Joseph was a really good guy. But of course, Joseph would never allow it because he knew who his boss was. He knew that his boss trusted him, and he didn't want to break that trust. But she was already married, right? And Joe was just doing everything he knew how to do correctly because he didn't want to upset his boss, and he did not want to sin against God.
Yep. So one day, Mrs. Potiphar came after Joseph, but he ran away. But as he was running away, she was able to grab his coat. And so she was so upset that Joseph didn't like her back and didn't want to be with her that she used that coat to lie about him. And she told everyone, "Oh my gosh, he attacked me. Here's his coat as proof. He left it when he attacked me." And of course, Mr. Potiphar, he didn't ask Joseph what his side of the story was. He just believed his wife because that was his wife. And so he didn't even ask Joseph. He didn't believe Joseph. And he got so mad, he sent Joseph straight to prison.
What is it with this guy in coats? He just needs to keep his coats on.
Right.
So in Genesis 39 it says, "But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. Then the warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success whatever he did." Man, he was a really trustworthy guy, huh?
Mm-hmm. So sometime later, 2 men were brought to jail where Joseph was, and one was the head royal baker and the other one was the chief royal cupbearer. And so one night, both of these guys had very weird, strange dreams and they woke up kind of upset about it because they were like, what does that mean? That was so weird. I don't understand anything. And so they told Joseph because he was there with them. And Joseph was able to ask God what they meant and able to interpret those dreams for them.
So, so Joseph did interpret these dreams, and the baker's dream meant that he was going to be killed. And the cupbearer's dream meant that he was going to be set free. Sure enough, both of those dreams started coming true. So Joseph told the cupbearer, you're going to be set free. Remember who I am, and tell Pharaoh that I helped you interpret your dreams, and tell him that I did nothing wrong. Please let him know.
All right. But sadly, the cupbearer forgot about Joseph, and he stayed in prison for a couple of years. Joseph did. And so Joseph's life was filled with unfair things, right? The same is true of God's very own son, Jesus Christ.
Jesus was treated unfairly when he was crucified by the people. He came to save. But just as God used the unfair things in Joseph's life to save Joseph's family, he ultimately used Jesus' death and resurrection to bring salvation to all who believed in him.
Mm-hmm. So after a few years had passed, Pharaoh himself was starting to have some weird and intense dreams. And he was telling the people around him, and one of the people around him was the cupbearer. And so he told the cupbearer about his weird dream, and the cupbearer remembered, oh my gosh, there's a guy named Joseph in jail. Well, first of all, I was supposed to remember him when I got out. Whoops. Second of all, he knows things about dreams. He wasn't able to interpret mine. He can do yours too, Pharaoh. So he told Pharaoh, and Pharaoh immediately called for Joseph to come and tell him what his dream meant.
So then Joseph came and told Pharaoh that his dream meant that the land will have 7 years of great harvest. So harvest means, getting all your fruits and vegetables and everything that you've planted. You're going to have 7 good
growing
years.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's growing awesome. You're going to have 7 awesome years of that. And then 7 years of famine where everything in the land would die. They wouldn't be able to plant, and,
there would be no rain, so nothing would grow.
Yes.
It would be dry and nothing.
So it's just going to be a tough 7 years. So he told them, so they have to be wise on saving and storing the food during the 7 good years. That way they don't starve during the 7 bad years. Then Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt and its food supply.
Again, another big job.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. God trusted Joseph with big things. He had a lot of favor, right? So Joseph, he stored up plenty of grain during the good years. That way when the bad years came, he was prepared. And so people from all over Egypt came to buy food from Joseph so they wouldn't starve. And people from outside of Egypt, all over the whole country, just everywhere, came to buy food for him because they were running out. And so God knows exactly what's happening in each of our lives, just as he did with Joseph's life. He had a plan for every one of us. And he had a plan for Joseph. He has a plan for me. He has a plan for you.
So, just like in this story, God sometimes allows things to happen to us that we don't like or even understand sometimes. Like when he allowed Joseph to wait in prison, But even in our hard times, he loves us and is working out his plan to make everything good for us.
Mm-hmm. So fast forward a couple more years, and like I said, people are running out of food even more. I mean, it started in Egypt, but now just all over, nobody has food. And they're coming from all the ends of the earth to Egypt because they heard people in Egypt have food and we're starving. We're going to die if we don't get any food. So people from all over the land came to Joseph, who was in charge, and they told Joseph, and even Joseph's family from Canaan was running out of food.
And so Joseph's family was, like Miss Bree said, was starting, to lose that food and not really have anything to eat. So Joseph's dad, Jacob, sent out Joseph's brothers, some of Joseph's brothers, to go find food, to go ask for food and bring some food back. It had been about 20 years since Joseph and his brothers had seen each other, and they didn't exactly leave on the best terms the last time they saw each other.
No, they did not. And so, because it had been so long, his brothers didn't recognize Joseph when they finally did go to Egypt and ask for food, but Joseph recognized his brothers.
So, Joseph sent them home to gather the remaining brother, right? Because, there was a brother missing. So Joseph went and told them, bring back the other brother that didn't come with you, and return and come back to me.
Because Joseph wanted to see all his brothers before he told them the big secret of who he was.
Exactly. And they still didn't know who Joseph was, so they were scared that he might do something bad to them, or the remaining brother that they would bring. But they had no choice. If they wanted food and they wanted to feel safe, they had to go and bring that extra brother.
Mm-hmm. And so, when all the brothers returned, Joseph fed them, and he even gave them some food to take home. And then he told his brothers who he was, and immediately they became terrified. They knew that they deserved whatever punishment Joseph wanted to give them, right?
Oof, I'd be scared. So he called his brothers close and told them, "It's me. It's really me, Joseph, the one you sold into slavery and sent into Egypt. Now don't be afraid and don't be angry at yourselves. It wasn't you who sent me here. It's God who did it.
Mm-hmm.
He put me here and put me in charge so I could save our family from ever starving."
Mm-hmm. And so Joseph even told them to go home and to tell their father of everything that had happened, and to invite his father and then the whole family to come and live with him, Joseph, in Egypt.
Now, can you imagine how stunned his brothers were when they found out that Joseph was, I call him Joe because I have a brother named Joseph. But can you imagine how stunned his brothers were when they found out that, the brother that they hated and that they sold was right in front of them, forgiving them for everything that they had done to them, for everything, that they put him through. And here he is now inviting them to come and live near him so they could take care of them. That must have been a shocker for them.
Mm-hmm. And so the brothers hurried home and told their father Jacob, and he was stunned too. All these years of grieving, of bitterness, and of anger, all that time, God had a good plan and a big plan that nobody could even imagine. And because Joseph was willing to forgive his brothers completely and invite them back to live near him, the families' lives would be saved, right? His family and their extended family. And so they packed up everything and they went right back to Egypt, and Joseph was able to take care of them all of their lives.
Joseph's brothers knew that they had done wrong. They knew that they had really messed up on this one. When we do wrong things, our lives can seem all messed up, but God loves us and wants you to know that he forgives you no matter what you do. God sent Jesus to die for our sins. Because Jesus died and came back to life again, we can ask God to forgive us, and we can become members of his family.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to say the verse today, and it's a pretty short verse, even though we had a pretty long story, but I think it's just something we can literally apply to any situation we're in and just kind of put our focus back, okay? So our verse today is Titus 3:1, and so me and Mr. Josh are going to say it, and then when we're done, of course, you guys will say it with us. So on the count of three.
Awesome.
1, 2, 3. Titus 3:1. Be ready to do whatever is good. Simple, but like I said, you can apply it to everything, and Joseph, I think, applied it. He did a lot of good when he could have done bad things and unforgiving and angry and all those things, that he didn't let that cloud what the Lord wanted in his heart and what the Lord wanted him to give to others, which is good in the love of the Lord, right?
It's true.
Okay, so now we'll say it all together on the count of 3. Go.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Titus 3:1. Be ready to do whatever is good.
It's short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here are some things to think about, guys. How does God help us when, things are hard and unfair in our lives?
In what ways can hard things be a part of God's plan for us?
Why do you think Joseph forgave his brothers instead of taking revenge?
And who is someone you can talk to if you're having a hard time forgiving someone?
So, like we said, guys, I think Joseph's story is pretty awesome because, it has a lot of good stuff in there, right? It kind of teaches you, to trust in God because, regardless of how things look and what they may seem to be, God always turns those bad situations And, he turns everything for our good. He knows what's best for us. He knows what we need, regardless of what it looks like. And he's going to be there to take care of us. This story also teaches us about forgiveness. It teaches us when, the people around us may do us wrong, or Miss Bree ate all of my French fries. She likes to eat my French fries sometimes. But, it just teaches us, that we have to be able to forgive no matter what. We have to be able, to just be okay and know that, and again, just trust God that He's going to take care of that situation, that we don't have to fret about it. We don't have to worry about it. God's going to take care of it.
It also teaches us about God's favor, that if you follow the Lord and you listen to Him, that God, He has favor on our lives, and He puts His hand in every situation we're in, and we're able to get to places that normally we shouldn't be able to get to, or other people aren't able to get to. God lifts us up and puts us in certain places because we have that favor, we have that special connection with the Lord, and if we're following Him, He's going to bless us in everything we do. And even when Joseph was in those hard times and bad places, God brought him out, and He just poured out His favor and His love on him, and he was able to be in charge of every place he went.
And also, it teaches us about coats. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm going to go buy a coat, because...
A colorful one?
A colorful
one.
Of
many colors?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I just think if Joseph had a coat, I should probably get a coat. But anyways, we love you guys. We're again, super happy to just share this time with you guys. And, we hope to see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.
Hey guys, so we're going to play a quick game called Who is More? So it's going to be asking questions about who is more likely to do these things. We're going to nod our heads depending on the answer, and we'll see what we get. Here we go. Who is more studious?
Me.
Who is more rambunctious? Me. Who is more likely to enjoy country music? I think
both of us.
Who is more likely to make a funny prank?
Me. You don't make pranks.
I do.
No.
Who is more likely to travel the world?
Me.
Both of us. Who is more likely to be an entrepreneur?
You. I don't have time for that.
Who is more loyal? Equal?
Both of us. I think we just have to move it.
Who is more likely to grab a burger?
You.
Me. Who is more likely to buy shoes?
Me.
You.
Who is more likely to spend all their money? Me. Who is more likely to rule the world? Me. Who's more likely to order a pizza? Him. Sorry. Who is more likely to be spoiled? Me. Who is more likely to fall asleep first? Me. I don't know. Oh, who's more likely to forget their keys? Josh, every day. Who's more likely to be multilingual? Josh.
Me.
Who's more poetic?
Me.
Him. He writes songs.